This is our main login page here. I'm going to log in to our demo show here. So when we designed the MediaWeb accounting program, our goal was to create a system that can be accessed from any location. There is no software installed on your machine. It's completely browser-based. So as long as you've got internet access, you can get into your projects. You simply go to our site, log in, choose your project as I just did, and then you can arrive at your home screen. Printing has also been simplified as MediaWeb uses your browser's print functions, which is already integrated with your operating system. By default, reports come up in Acrobat PDF. You also have a couple of different options like Word or Excel, which I'm going to go through in just a few minutes here. Because all of the data is stored on the cloud, there is no need for you to make or store any backups. We take care of all of that for you. So the first screen I'm going to go to here is generally the first screen that somebody goes to in a project, and that is the budget module. So we import budgets from Movie Magic Budgeting and Showbiz Budgeting, the two big budgeting programs in the industry. So in addition to importing, you can also create budgets for as many locations, productions, projects that you need. Within the system, what you've probably seen in the past is that you'll have one budget per episode. We give you the flexibility of creating as many budgets as you need per episode, so that way you can generate your cost report based on any of the budget numbers. This is helpful if you're trying to see what your budget would be like with or without tax incentives, or for a number of other reasons. Maybe you want to show or hide different areas of the budget on your cost report. So starting off in our budget screen here, you can see it looks a lot like the cost report. You've got your accounts, you've got your numbers, and one nice thing about this screen is that you have the ability of showing and hiding the different columns. So you can turn off if you don't want to show your purchase orders or commitments, and it reduces the screen, so that way you're just looking at your actual information and how it affects your budget. Simply choose the mode that you want to be in. Right now I am in budget EFC mode, so whatever information I type into our budget or our orange column here, because it's an add to method, it's automatically going to add to the amounts in my budget and EFC areas. You can change if you want to add just budget numbers, just EFCs, or you can even put it in ETC only, your estimate to complete, and the system will automatically do the math for you, calculating what the EFC should be against your actuals to date information. Your method can also be changed. Currently I have it into the add to method, where whatever number I type in will add to the existing amount. You can also use the replace method, and the replace method allows you to type in a number and have it overwrite what currently exists there. We also have a nice drill down feature, so right within the module, you don't have to leave to see what makes up your actual numbers. You simply click on the column that you want to view the detail numbers for, click the drill down, and it gives you a nice printable list of all the transactions that make up those actual balances. And it goes across all the different modules within the system. Closing that window allows you just to proceed with your budget. We also allow you to budget to sets, and another handy feature is combining your actuals together. Sometimes you might have a project you're working on that only has one budget, but you might be filming in 2 locations or 2 episodes. And so in your budgeting screen, you want to combine together amounts for your different locations or productions. Even if you have multiple companies or currencies, you can combine all of this together on your screen, and the actual calculations will happen against the budget, just like it would on your cost report. The system can save any consolidation changes that you make and save them so that next time you come into the system, it'll automatically be available to you. You have your descriptions here that are pulling from your chart of accounts. Sometimes you want to have your cost report and your trial balance give you the chart of account descriptions as pulled in from your chart of accounts. Sometimes, if you have multiple budgets especially, you might have an account number that's got a couple of different uses. And so by simply changing the name of the account on the budget screen, when you go to generate your cost report, you can choose whether you want to use the budget description or if you want to use your chart of accounts description. When I get over to the cost report area, I'll show you where that selection is. So I'm going to close out of the budget module here, and I'm just going to briefly go over some of the setup options we have in the system. When you import your chart of accounts, when you import your budget, not only does it create your budget and all your numbers, but it also creates your full chart of accounts for you. It'll populate all of your cost ranges, your above the line, below the line, into the system. One of the services that we offer when we set up your new project for you is we'll actually create your balance sheet accounts based off of the information that you've provided to us. We'll create the range, we'll create the account numbers, so that when you get into the system, you're ready to go. I'm going into our chart of accounts module here just to show an example of what the screen looks like. You can see all of our accounts roll up and collapse underneath each parent or header account, which is easily collapsed or expanded. By clicking on the parent account, it will show you all the accounts that go underneath it. We have a very robust search feature in the system where you can search for by account name, by account description, by account description, by account number, active, inactive accounts, type of account that it is, simply typing in the find area, hitting search, and it will bring your search results on the side. I'm going to show you a little bit more about the searching functionality as we get into some of the modules. All the screens kind of use a very similar functionality, which is really simple to go through. Closing out of our chart of accounts window here, I'm going to show you some of the other setup areas. It's pretty self-explanatory. Locations, productions, all you do when you're ready to set up your list is you simply type in what your new number is going to be, type in your description, and save. And the system simply adds it to the list, and it's available to access within the system through all of your entry screens. That pretty much holds true for your locations, your sets, and free fields, which we offer up to 4 of. We give you 4 different free field lists that you can create within the system. These can be used for anything from keeping track of tax incentives to assets to reshoots, whatever you need it to track for you. You can create one list in each one of these tabs. You'll notice here in free field 4, I have not set up anything. The nice thing about the entry screens we have is all the screens are dynamic. So if you're only using free fields 1, 2, and 3, free field 4 column just isn't going to show up. It's not going to take up that extra space within your screen, so that way you can just move on and not have extra information that you have to kind of tab and go past. So now I'm going to move into the purchase order module, which is kind of the beginning of our AP process that I'm going to go through here. So all of our entry screens look very similar. Up on top you have what's called the header part of the screen, which is your basic information about the transaction. On the bottom you have all the transaction detail lines. You have the same searching functionality that you saw in the chart of accounts screen. And on the left here, this is going to be a list, in this case with purchase orders, all of the open purchase orders. I can also view closed purchase orders simply by changing the status. It shows me all of my closed ones. And then I can either manually go through and click on the items I want to view, or I can use the find functionality. So I'm going to start by just entering a real basic purchase order here for our ABC company. I'm going to give it a purchase order number that's easy for us to find. Give us a dollar amount, and I'm simply using either my tab or my enter key to move through the system. I'm going to put my caps on here. As I'm moving through, you see the system automatically defaults to the current period. You can change your period to current or next, depending on how you want this to appear in your cost report. You've got your notes field. And then as you tab down to the detail line, what I have set up for this particular ABC vendor is a default location and production number within the system, so that anytime I do an entry, it'll automatically default to this. There are also user settings, which I'll be showing you in a few moments here, that gives you other flexibility of putting in defaults that the system will remember as you move through. So because this is a completely web-based application, we wanted to make it fast. We don't want to load a lot of stuff onto your screen, because if you're using Wi-Fi, if you're in a location that maybe doesn't have good internet access, we tried to make the program as slim as possible to make it work as efficiently as we can. And one of the ways we do that is in our chart of accounts here. as you start typing in an account number, you just start typing in the first character. It'll bring you a drop-down list of all accounts that the first character. As I type in additional numbers, you'll see the list shrinks to match the number I've typed in. Simply hitting enter grabs that item. Same goes for all of our fields. So I've got our sets, I've got our free fields, and you'll notice I don't have a free field 4 on the screen here, which would have appeared right after 3, because I don't have one set up. In my demo data here, I have 3 of them set up, which is why you're seeing the 3 here. Insurance is another field similar to free, where if you need to keep track of an insurance claim, you can also tag any line of a transaction so that you can easily generate a general ledger later on. 1099 coding, same thing. You start typing in the number, and then you can enter in whatever code it is. This V1099 field is pretty cool. So this is my ABC company. Now say I need to cut a check to this ABC company, but I need to 1099 a different company. I can actually start typing in another vendor, and you'll see it automatically brings up the vendor name. So what I'm saying is, when I'm ready to print 1099s, this will say $50 on this line is going to be 1099ing Lucille Ball instead of this ABC company. So it's a way of kind of doing 2 things at once when you're entering in the transaction. So I'm just going to enter in my line 1 here. As soon as I hit tab or enter, it automatically creates a second line, and it gives the remaining balance based off of the total that I indicated the PO was. The bottom of the screen is always going to keep track of where you are so that you know if you've got several lines how much money you've allocated. So as you see, as I enter in $20 here, it shows me I only have $70 of details that I've created. So if I try to save it, it's going to say that, I'll try it here now. If I hit save, it's going to say that the PO doesn't balance. There's a $50 difference between the $70 in my detail line and the $120 on top. So if I say OK, the program will automatically adjust the PO top part to be $50, excuse me, to be $70, which is the total of the purchase order. If I hit cancel, it'll let me continue on until the amounts match, and then I can hit my save. Once the transaction is saved, it automatically displays a transaction number for you, so you can put it onto your paper purchase order or AP invoices we're going to go into in a moment here, or you can hide those messages. So that way, if you don't really care about the transaction number, you don't have to see it each time. When you hit save, it'll simply save it into the side. So you can see here under ABC Company, I now have this purchase order that I've entered in here. I can easily retrieve this purchase order by clicking on it, and if I notice an error or if I need to make a change, I can simply make my change, enter in the information, hit save, and it has been updated. A couple of other cool tools that we have here in our purchase order module is we can import purchase orders from an Excel file. So if you have an Excel file that is basically laid out in this grid format here, you can import large amounts of data quickly and easily from Excel. We also import in from our Showbiz time card software system. This is nice because if you haven't posted your payroll costs, you can kind of get a preview of what your payroll costs are going to be in your cost report before posting payroll information. And we have other couple of tools here, Episodizer, where if you've got episodic and you want to split it over multiple episodes, you can simply say $1,000 splitting over 10 episodes. It'll automatically put $100 on each episode. We also give the ability of closing multiple purchase orders at a time. All of our modules have these nice tools that I'm not going to go through piece by piece here for the sake of saving time, but these are available within the system. Also, within each module, we have all of the reports that pertain to that particular module. By simply going to reports, you can see here, I'm in the purchase order screen, so I have my purchase order audit and my purchase order history available to me. If I click on my PO audit, it brings up my filter screen where I can plug in my filters. Do I want to have just open, closed, if I want to isolate certain production numbers or detail account information on the purchase order, and then I can just preview it. All reports by default will come up in Acrobat or whatever your PDF is within the system. This can easily be saved, previewed, printed. Also, when you hit your export, button on the bottom of the screen here, you can see we have the ability to export in PDF, Excel, or Word by default. So if you simply say Excel, you hit export, it'll prompt you to save the Excel file on your screen. All of our report screens work exactly the same, and I'll be showing you some of these options and more of the filters as we move through. So I'm going to cancel out of our purchase order screen here, and I'm going to move into our AP invoice entry screen. So you have two options. First of all, you can see the screen looks very similar to the purchase order screen. So the nice thing is, again, we make sure that once you've learned how to do one screen, all of them look and feel the same, so you don't have to relearn each module. You don't have to kind of understand the screens all over again. Each one of them has their own items that pertain to that module. And in this example here with the AP invoice, I can either create a new invoice by simply typing in a vendor that doesn't have a purchase order. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in our ABC company here. As soon as I do that, it's going to tell me that I've got open purchase orders in the system. This little box shows up in orange here. When I click on that box, it brings up a list of all the purchase orders that have been entered into the system. Here's that test one that we just did. You can see there are two lines here. I could select either one of the lines to pull into this AP. I could choose both lines, or I can simply choose all lines of the purchase order and bring them into the AP invoice. You can see the information flows right in, gives me my total, gives me my description, all of the dates, total amount matches. All it needs from me now is simply an invoice number, and we can save. Before I click the Save button, just wanted to point out a couple of other features in the AP module here. We have the ability of doing a computer check, which means you're going to be printing checks from the system. We have manual check option where you can put in if it's a pre-printed or pre-written check and you wanted to put in the check number and check date and record it within the program. Separate check. If you have, say, a vendor with 10 invoices and you've entered all 10 invoices in the system, but they require you to give one check per invoice, you can tag this as a separate check. And when you go to your print module, you don't have to remember, oh, this one needs to go on its own check. It'll automatically remember and print the dollar amount for this invoice on a single check. Wire transfer is very similar to manual check, where if you did a wire transfer, you can keep track of it here in the AP module and then post the check portion of it just like you would with an AP invoice. And then the grouping here is just if you want to group checks together and print them in batches, it gives you a nice way of filtering through them in the check writer screen. For this one here, I'm going to just keep it as a computer check. I'm going to click Save. It gives me a transaction number. And you can see this is now an unposted AP invoice here on the left. Now before I leave our AP module, I want to show you a couple of other cool features that we put into the system. I'm going to go to the posted AP invoices I have in the demo here. And I'm going to bring up a posted AP invoice. So it gives you a list here by transaction number, by invoice number, even dollar amount, so it's easy to find. Or you can choose, if I want to use my searching function, I can choose a search by my invoice number. It has 479, brings up a transaction. Yes, I want to bring that transaction to the screen. And now I am viewing a posted transaction. You're going to notice that the header information and the dollar amounts are all grayed out. Once a transaction has been posted, can't change these things. But we have offered a couple of levels of editability within the module. We allow you on a posted invoice, if authorized, the ability to come in here and simply change the account number that the invoice has been posted to. Once you change that and hit Save, it's going to automatically update the general ledger to be the correct account number or the new account number. Now, we've had some users who indicate they love this feature because it gives them the ability to go back later on and kind of audit their data and clean everything up. We have others that have been concerned that, well, if you have already passed in a cost report and this AP was posted to a previous period, you don't want the users to have the ability of changing this in a previous period and messing up all of your trial balances, all your financial statements. So in our user settings area, each user will be designated by the accountant as to whether they have the ability to post, or excuse me, to change posted transactions in a previous period or not. We have a second level of security that allows users to only change unposted transactions, they can't change posted transactions whatsoever. So it locks them completely out of changing any posted items. So we can say previous period, they can't change. Previous and current period, they can't change, or just or no changes at all. So we give that flexibility within the system. So again, within the AP module, you see the reports that pertain to the AP invoice here. And I'm sorry, I have a question that I didn't answer timely enough. Somebody asked, am I closing the purchase order when entering a bill? That is a good question. So when you are pulling a purchase order into an AP invoice, if you, actually, I'm going to show you. I'm going to go back to the unposted AP invoice here that I just created. And you'll notice when I brought in the AP invoice, I brought in the full amount of the purchase order. So by default, if you enter in the full amount of the purchase order line, by default, it is going to close out that PO line. Now, say I decide to make it partially closed. So the amount of the PO was $50 on this particular line. When I tab through, or as soon as I hit the enter key, it's going to tell me there's $10 remaining on this purchase order. Do I want to force close it, or do I want the PO to remain open? So if I say OK, it's going to force close it. If I hit cancel, you'll notice that close now changes to no. So after I post this AP invoice and I go back and look at the purchase order, you'll see that there is still a $10 balance on that line. I have another question on here. Will this video be available on the website later? We are going to be working on taking this webinar and making it a little, probably either chopping it up in smaller chunks, or we're going to be providing it online later. So yes, and we will be doing other webinars. So you can always go to our website, media-services.com, to see future presentations. Okay, so I'm going to say OK here, close out this purchase order. Sorry, I'm just checking out the other questions that I have here in the window here. Does the purchase order number follow the entering of the bill? Yes. So what you're asking is, when I have a purchase order and I relieve that purchase order with an AP invoice, does it retain that purchase order number? Yes. I'm going to go into the PO that I have, or the AP invoice that I just relieved the purchase order for. You'll notice here on the left you have a PO column. So this is the purchase order number that I assigned the purchase order number. So when I attached that purchase order to this AP and I'm relieving the purchase order, they are now forever linked. So you can see here the PO. Another nice thing about the system is, let me just save this purchase order here, or save that change. And on all of our entry screens, we have a button here called Vendor History. When you click on the Vendor History button, it's going to show you all of the transactions that have been entered into the system for this particular vendor. You can do posted transactions, unposted transactions. You can see all of the purchase order AP checks. It's giving you all the different types of transactions on the screen. So you don't have to go back to the PO module to see, was this PO already entered the system, or hey, did I already enter this AP in the system? You have a nice snapshot right here to see all of your vendor's history. You can hit the expansion button here to expand and see the details of each transaction. All right, I'm going to move on now to our check writing screen briefly here. So all AP invoices that have been posted into the system will appear on the screen. You can simply choose which ones you want to print by clicking on the item, hitting the print button, and it brings everything up as a PDF. PDF is then printed, or you then send it to your printer, and then once your check run has been completed, you then, actually I'll show you an example here. So once I hit the print button, it tells me it's bringing up as a PDF. The PDF of the checks will be appearing on the screen. You print it to your printer, and then if you have an issue with your printer or an issue with the print job, sorry, let me click on this button. I've got two screens here, so it is popping everything onto my other screen here. Sorry, I moved everything on my other screen here. Once the check has printed, you'll see it is a reprint button on the screen. So until this check is posted, sorry, there it is. This is an example of the MICR check. So let me backtrack for a moment here. We print two types of checks. We have pre-printed checks and we have MICR checks. Pre-printed checks is basically meaning you purchase the checks from your bank. It has the bank information, it has the check number, it has all that crazy routing number information, your show information on the check. You feed it into your printer, and then it basically prints the information onto the check, just as you would see here, where you've got limited information on the screen. MICR check printing is very valuable when you've got multiple productions running, because what you can do is put in blank check stock into your screen. Basically, it looks like a blank piece of white paper with the coloring of the check on the bottom. And then when you print, it doesn't matter what show you're in. The system will automatically print your show's information. The bank that you're printing checks for, it prints the bank information, including the crazy routing number on the bottom, check number, etc. So one of the questions that I've had in the past is, okay, so I've got pre-printed checks. If I need to do a manual check, all I have to do is give someone check stock, bring it on set, they can cut out checks, and I can put it in later on. How could I do that with a MICR check if it's just blank checks? And that's a good question. We actually offer a feature called the ability, blank MICR checks, where basically you have the ability of printing blank checks where it has the code on the bottom, it assigns it a check number, and it gives the show information, the bank, the MICR code, but it leaves the vendor pay to and amount information obviously blank. You can print this up onto your check stock and give it to somebody who's going on location, and then they can write the checks. Later on, when they come back with the information, like the invoice information in the system, when you enter an AP invoice into the system as a manual check, and you tell it that it's for that particular check number of this blank MICR check, it's going to pop up a message saying, hey, I see that this was a blank MICR check. Do you want to link them together? You say yes, and now that check that you've just printed in the system is linked to the AP invoice. The vendor information is now attached, and it looks like just like any other AP and check you've got. I'm going to go into our journal entry module here. In our journal entry module, very similar to all of our other screens, you've got the header information on top, detail information on the bottom. You've got your debits and credits that all have to balance out to 0 in order for the transaction to save. One of the cool things is that we've got the journal entry import, which is very similar to our PO import. I'm going to show you now. I'm going to go to Tools, Import Journal Entry. Brings up to this screen where you choose which file you want to import in. I'm going to use the template I've got here for the demo, import that in, and it doesn't matter how many lines you have, it's going to bring the information right into the purchase order, or excuse me, right into the journal entry. Now the nice thing about the system is that if there are any issues with the file, or excuse me, with the import, when I say issues, meaning somebody on the Excel file entered in an account number that doesn't appear in the system or doesn't exist in the system, the system will flag that with a red line, so that way you can go in, you can modify that. I'm sorry, I had my other window open here. Let me just cancel out and come back in again. Apologize for the delay here. I had two windows open, and I had the other one pop up on my other screen here. So with the, I'm just going to log back in on this side. So something that you might have missed if you joined this session a little late is that when you first log into the system, it shows you all the projects that you've got available to you on a pick list. You simply choose the project that you want to access, hit Select Show, and it brings you right into that project. It'll tell you on the top of the screen which show that you're in. So I'm going to go back here into our journal entry screen. I'm going to go to Import Journal Entry, choosing my file here, make sure I grab the right file here, import that in, journal entry imports in, and there you go. As I was saying previously, if you've got a red line on your screen, that means that the Excel file that you used was coded to an account number that doesn't exist in your chart of accounts. So it makes it a nice, easy representation of where you need to go to fix that. So you plug in whatever your account number is going to be, hit enter, and then the issue is now resolved. The line is no longer red. You simply fill out the missing pieces of information, your vendor, journal entry number, your description, save it, and you're done. We have tested entering Excel files up to 2,000 lines into the system. And while it might take a moment to upload, it has come in, it has processed, and it has posted. So this is a nice way of doing a couple things. One client told me that they take this Excel template and they give it to their crew members that do petty cash. So instead of going to the system and entering in petty cash manually, they let them enter in all the petty cash information into Excel. I'm going to slide this over here. They give this template over to the crew members who basically itemize all of their information. They put in the descriptions, the dollar amounts. If they have the account numbers, great. If not, at least you've got most of the information on the screen here, and you can easily populate and copy down information to the system. So if you know you're going to be having the same location for all the items, obviously in Excel, you can easily just copy that down, and it's a quick way of coding everything out, getting into the system. Okay, I'm going to move on here. Speaking of petty cash, I'm going to quickly show you our petty cash module. Basically, you have different types of transactions. You have where you are advancing money and you are accounting for money. So I'm just going to plug in an envelope number here. So advanced means I'm giving out petty cash. Say I'm giving out $1,000 in petty cash. Put in whatever the description is. As soon as I get to the bottom of the screen, the vendor has already been set up with an account number, and it knows who the petty cash vendor is. So it's automatically taking money out of the petty cash custodian and giving it to the vendor. There's no work involved. You simply save it, you move on. When they come back with a handful of receipts, if you're not using our import function, you simply come back in, you plug in the accounted for, basically that's the amount of money they're bringing back, say they bring back $500, and then it allows you to go to the bottom of the screen and start coding it out. So it automatically knows, put the money back into that individual's petty cash account. You're going to be plugging whatever your account numbers is, and it doesn't matter how many lines you have, the system will automatically put in all the details for you. You can also advance and account it for at the same time, any combination in between. So we make petty cash fast and simple to get into the program. The module near and dear to our heart here at Media Services is the Payroll module. So once your payroll has been finalized, there are two ways you can get a payroll file into the system. One is your payroll coordinator can simply email you your payroll file, and you can upload it to the system here. If, just like the journal entry module and the purchase order module, if for any reason there is an account number that's been coded, doesn't exist in your system, you will see the lines in red. You simply code out wherever those lines need to be. You can enter in, obviously, your free field information. You can enter in any other information that you need, save it, and the information will be posted just like a journal entry or any other transaction. We also have a second option, which is the we call OLPP. It's our on-location paycheck printing. So I'm going to payroll, on-location payroll. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with on-location paycheck printing, when your payroll is finalized, you get an email telling you your payroll files are ready. You simply come in here. You have a separate username and password for downloading, just because we want to keep everything secure. You download your check files. Your check files will appear here. All of your reporting information will appear within the system. And you can save your reports, print your paychecks. All your paychecks come to a PDF, just like your AP checks, and your payroll information loads right in the payroll module, so there is no import necessary. So we do offer the on-location paycheck printing option. If you receive payroll and you need to split out a line, you can simply highlight a line and hit split lines. The system will do the math for you. As you can see, I've got a whopping $1 here in this payroll, so if I'm going to put in 50 cents or 5 cents here, the system automatically does the math on the next line. You can split it as many times as you need. Once you've done that, the system will then split it out for you. You can also combine lines the same way. Two other modules I'm going to touch on briefly here. Our purchase card module. Oops, wrong button. Our purchase card module can import in from the JP Morgan card that we provide here at Media Services. We've also partnered up with Cache, which has grown pretty popular in the industry. Basically, once you have used your card and gotten all of your transactions up on their site, the file will download into the system here, giving you all of your transaction details, similar to other screens. If you've coded out transactions on the site and the account numbers don't match, they come up in red, so that you can easily recode them and see where your changes need to be made. Gives you all the basic information about the merchant. And once you have coded in a specific account number to a particular merchant, it will remember that. And it will automatically default to that account number moving forward. So if I find a vendor here that I have used in the past, you'll see it automatically will store location, production, and detail account number in the system. You can always come in here and modify this, so that way in the future if you use this, it'll code to a different account number. You can also remove location, production, and just have the detail account. You can code to a set, etc. So it makes it nice that as you're downloading purchase card transactions, the information will be uniform in the system. When I close out of there, we have an American Express import, very similar. Basically, you import from American Express. It gives you all your transaction details. Just like with the purchase card module, you will validate the line. So say you need to dispute a charge, you can always just say that it is not a valid charge, and that will not be imported into the system. This all comes in just like a journal entry and posts to your ledger just like a journal entry. I'm going to go into our posting screen here just to show you how the posting works. You can select module by module, just AP invoices, just checks, journal entries, etc., or you can see everything. By default, it posts to the current period, but you can also change it to the next. You can also say, I only want to see transactions that I have coded to the next period. In this case, I don't have any, but I can say all, current, next, choose the period. If you've got multiple banks, you can view the information for one bank or all banks, multiple currencies, etc. So it gives you the filtering options. Simply select the items that you want to post to the ledger. It says they're posting. Do you want to continue? I'm going to say OK. It then posts. I then get a posting report, which you can then save or print. Of course, it's in PDF, just like all of the reports. I'm going to move on to reporting here. So as you saw, within each module, it gives you the reports that pertain to that module. We also have a nice central area under our reports menu here, where you can see every report available within our system. I'm just going to spotlight the most popular ones here. The cost report obviously is the big one everybody wants to see. So here are all of our filtering options. You can choose any combination of locations, production, detail account. You can just show specific free fields if you want. You can consolidate the reports into one. As I was mentioning previously, if you have a budget description that differs from your account description, you can choose whether you want to use your budget description or your chart of accounts description. You can include or hide zero costs. There's a lot of different filtering options here. Also, if you're using sets or subs, you can determine whether you want to see set and sub detail on the report, or if you want it to roll up. So I'm just going to preview a cost report here with set information. So here is our typical cost report. I'm going to enlarge this here on the screen just to make it easy for everybody to see. This is one of the popular reports I get asked to preview in a demo here. So as you can see, it looks pretty much like any other cost report. You've got your header, you've got your detail accounts. I've chosen to display sets, so it displays my sets. I've got my actuals for the period, my actuals for date, purchase orders, the combination of all that together in to-date total. Of course, my budget and EFC, which gives me my variance, and then my estimate to complete. It's going to bring you through each of the sections, all of your cost sections, and give you your bottom line total on the bottom. If you are choosing to do amortization, Where maybe you've got an amort budget, say for overhead costs, you want to split across multiple episodes. We do handle that in our budget module, and it will appear as an additional line on the bottom. You can have as many amorts as you need, so it'll give you your totals for this particular combination that I have chosen. On this particular report, I chose location 1, production 1001. And if I choose to do the amort like I mentioned, then anything coded or anything amortized to 011001 will appear on the bottom and total together. 2 other reports I often get asked to bring up in the system. The other one is the trial balance report. So I'm going to go to my trial balance here. Again, we've got several options: current period, next period. You can do it in summary, detail. Trial balance report up on the screen here. And then one thing I'm going to show you in the trial balance, just because it's a nice small report for the demo here, is our export functionality. I'm going to export this one to Excel. So as soon as I choose Excel and I export that, you'll see the trial balance comes into Excel. We offer a nice header on the report, so it gives you all the information that you need to know when the report was run for, which you can hide or delete for the purpose of the demo here. I'm just going to delete this, make it easy to see on the screen. You can see everything lines up nicely. We've got the columns for all the reports. The report that we've really done a good job on exporting as well is our general ledger. So in the general ledger, you've got all the filtering options available to you. So you can see you've got your range of transaction numbers, periods, posted dates, transaction dates, vendors, locations, etc. So you've got your full array of every filter within the system available to you here that you can preview or export to Excel. Another cool thing that we do, and this is one of the exclusive features for MediaWeb, you can run a general ledger across multiple shows. In my demo here, I have access to 2 demo shows. And if there's a vendor that appears across multiple shows, I can choose the vendor. Or I can say, you know what, I want to choose just one detail account. I want to see how much across all of my shows or a couple of my shows I have data for, and it brings it up on the screen. A couple of other multi-show reports that we offer is the trial balance with the I'm going to expand this here. So with the multi-show trial balance, you can generate based off of posted date or transaction date or year period across one or multiple or all of your shows. We also have a number of customized reports that we've created. We've got all unposted transactions, bank items, all open purchase orders, posted APs that don't have the check cut, so you can kind of see what your liabilities are. And then you can do it for all shows, selected shows. This is a very powerful function. And it also shows you that we are willing to create custom reports for our clients. So these are the reports that we've already created, but we are always open to providing more. We have a robust list of reports, as you can see within the system here. And if anything doesn't meet your needs, we're always able to add additional filtering options, create an additional report, make it so that's available across all of your projects. So I'm in the purpose of holding on to our time schedule here, I'm going to explain that to you, but if anybody likes to see a particular demo, or if anybody would like to have more information, again, at the end of the demo, I'll show you where to go on our site or the phone numbers to call for additional information. Some of the quick tools I'm just going to go to here. We've got a period transfer tool where you can actually transfer information from current to next and vice versa. We also give you the ability to do a bank transfer. So say you've posted a ton of AP invoices to one bank, but then you realize you're going to be cutting the checks out of another bank. You have the ability to transfer the information from one bank to another bank that you might have set up in the system. Switching between shows is simple. You don't have to log out and log back in again. You simply go to the show selection here. You see all the shows that are available. Select your other show, and now you're in your other project. Run reports, do whatever you need, and it moves forward. Now, because this is completely browser-based software, as you are opening up multiple windows, you can see I'm using Google's Chrome here. I'm going to just kind of open up a couple of windows and minimize them. As you are opening windows and minimizing them, you have your ability within your Windows or your Mac to see all the open windows, but we've also given you a nice feature where you can see all the modules that you have open within the software. Simply click on the screen that you want to access, or excuse me, click resume on the screen you want to access, and it brings that module right up. If you're back at the menu and you want to close that module, you can hit the X. It's going to let you know if you have any unsaved changes, you're going to lose them, and if that's okay with you, it'll close it out and it removes it from the list. So it's nice if you have a big long list here, you can kind of go through and closing them, you can see what you might have window or what you might have open and what information you might need to hold on to. One of the last areas I'm going to go into here is our user settings. So in user settings, each user has the ability of kind of having a customized experience within MediaWeb. So if you've got multiple companies, if you've got multiple currencies, multiple banks, you can set up the defaults here. So as you go through your different entry screens, you can see or you can automatically have loaded in these default values. Excuse me, they can be changed, however, this is what comes in by default. All those confirmation messages that came up during the demo are great because it reminds me to explain things to you, but if you get annoyed by them and once you get to know the system well, you can always hide them so that way they're not available to you or they're not always visible. So there's a couple of other areas where you can even change the colors of your different modules. If you have a default location production number, if you have a default balance sheet production number, so it'll remind you if you're accidentally coding a cost account to a balance sheet production number. Modules also have some specifics, but another area I wanted to show you is the user maintenance. So if I've got multiple users within the system, as the show's accountant, I get to determine what they can see and what they can do within the program. The entire program has basically been audited, where you can allow or deny access to AP invoices, purchase orders. You can say, I want them to have the ability to view and create new purchase orders but not delete them. Same thing with vendors, bank reconciliation, general ledger. We went through the entire system and audited it so that way all functionality can be assigned or denied based off of your needs. This includes reports, purchase cards, and even if you have multiple companies within the system, which companies you want to give them access to. So we truly do offer a customized experience within the system. So I'm just about out of time here. So I just wanted to close the MediaWeb demo here with giving you our website. On our Media Services website, if you go to Accounting and down to MediaWeb, if you'd like to have a more in-depth demo, we have a quick link on the bottom where if you click here, you can give us some basic information about you, and we will call you and set up a time to do a demo. You can also give us a call at either our LA or New York office, and the numbers are available all over our website. So for those of you who are interested, I was going to give a brief preview here of our e-production office system. So one of the nice things about the e-production office system is that it eliminates the need for paper purchase orders. As those of you who have worked in production long enough know, it is easy to lose pieces of paper and lose purchase orders as they're moving from desk to desk and waiting signatures and authorization. So with our e-production office system, what we basically have allowed is for you to give access to crew members to come in and request purchase orders. You can see our e-production office system looks very similar to MediaWeb, where you've got the menus on top, and it's an easy to navigate system. Basically, they go in, activities, purchase orders is all they have available to them. I'm just going to bring up a previously saved purchase order within the system. So just like the other MediaWeb screens, you have your header information, you've got your details on the bottom. Based on the user that's logging in, they will have options only to access the departments that you have granted them access to enter purchase orders to. and then only the accounts that fall within those departments. And the system will automatically keep track and assign purchase orders for you. So it starts at whatever you want to have the starting number, and it moves forward. Once a crew member has entered and saved a purchase order, an email will automatically go out to the approvers, letting them know a purchase order is available. And there's a couple different ways that can happen. So you can have it set up so that way, if you have in the demo here, the accountant and the department head have to be the approvers. So you can say, I want the accountant to get the first email. Once the accountant approves the purchase order, it moves on to the second person on the list. They automatically get an email. They approve it. Once the purchase orders have been approved, the information will automatically flow into MediaWeb's purchase order module. The accountant still has kind of a staging area where they can see purchase orders that have been approved. They can modify them, of course. They can recode them, do whatever they need to make sure they're accurate, and pull them right into the MediaWeb system. No paper ever exchanged hands. You can also set up where everybody just kind of gets the email at once, so it's a free-for-all, first come, first that gets in there, approves the purchase order. If you need 5 approvers, it doesn't matter what order it happens, they all go in. Once it gets all 5 approvals, then it flows into the production accounting software. So we give you both of those different options as far as how you want to get the purchase orders in. We have the reports where you can get an option to see what purchase orders have been approved, what's not approved. You can actually print up paper purchase orders from here if you really want to have that piece of paper. But at least in order to get the approval process done, paper never has to exchange hands. So that was just a very brief preview I wanted to give you on the eProduction Office system, and we'll give you a demo on that. This concludes our demo, and I've gone 1 minute over my allotted time here. I'm taking a look at my question screen. I don't see that anything else has come in. So again, media-services.com is our website. We've got our phone numbers on there. We've got information about the different features that we offer as a company, the different software programs that we provided. We've got a great interactive map for tax incentives. For those of you who weren't on the demo in the very beginning, it's a nice way of seeing what tax incentives are in the different states, and we give a nice way of seeing where you can get the best bang for your buck when you're filming your production. So I thank you all for attending, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Have a great day.